What's up everyone? Welcome to a brand new season of the obscure Game Faceoff. This season, we got it all, from dead online games. I feel like there are people, but they're just not talking. Either that or they're just bots. Games that make me rage. Okay. Oh fuck, you idiot! You fucking idiot! No, I'm the idiot. To an Excel spreadsheet game? Oh, arrow keys. Oh, what? No, game over. Oh my god, that's so... Oh my god, that's so cool. I've reviewed more than 20 games this season, unlike last season where I didn't even review half as much, and that's because I'm changing up the way I feature games. On Season 1, I reviewed any game I came across thoroughly, even games that were unremarkable to review. In this season, however, I will only be briefly reviewing games I deem unremarkable, while more properly giving the light of day to games I deem worth reviewing and more worth your time. Out of those featured games, 5 standouts will either be given the Hidden Gem Award, which means that I actually enjoyed the game a lot and think they are definitely worth trying out for yourself, or the Hidden Stinker Award, which I will argue might be a harder award to get than the Hidden Gem. Well, unlike last season, where the Hidden Stinker was given based on the worst rated game, I will be giving it to games that are bad, but in a way that is so bad, it actually makes for an entertaining review sort of way. With all that being said, let us first begin with the first batch of games, starting with the very first game I reviewed in Season 2, known as Pin Pang. Pin Pang is a game made in 24 hours for a casual game jam. It's basically an IRL barbecue meetup with 24 hours of optional game development on the side, which is a pretty cool idea. Though let's be real, if I or most other people were to attend this, we'd probably be more focused on the food instead of the game development itself. Alright, let's talk about the game. The game's silly name is a combination of yin yang and pinball. The first thing I noticed about the game were the graphics. I was thoroughly impressed with how it all turned out for a game made in 24 hours. For the game itself, it's basically a local 2 vs 2 game where one team launches a ball to go through any of the teams on the opponent's side of the field. This would have been a fun idea for a party game if only it was functional. Due to the very short development time given, the developers couldn't finish the scoring system, so when any side scores a goal, both sides get a point. This alone would deter people from playing the game. And last but certainly not least, sometimes the ball serves can be completely unhittable, giving an easy point for the opposing team. Assuming the score system works, of course. Like, how are you supposed to hit this without losing a point? And now it's time for me to rate the game. I'm aware that despite the issues, I still have to say that this game is very well made for 24 hours of development time. Despite that fact though, I'm not gonna let it affect my ratings. I rate games solely based on my own experience playing it without any other factors, just to keep it fair for every game. With all that being said, due to the game having a lot of issues from rushed development, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 10. I'd say that's a good score for a game made in 24 hours. If only they polished the scoring and serving a bit more, I could see it getting as high as a 4 to 5. Now we move on to our second game, Obscape. Obscape is yet another game made in 2 weeks for a different game jam competition. You basically control a green circle and have to avoid red shapes that spawn in randomly and try to hit you for as long as possible. Despite how simple the game is, it has a laundry list of problems. Starting with how hard it is to tell the character and background apart. As if that isn't bad enough, the red shapes can spawn in your position and damage you without the chance to avoid them, which is incredibly unfair. The worst part that truly makes the game unplayable is that after losing and retrying the game literally becomes impossible. Just look at what happens. Hello? How do I... That's it? I mean, like, how do I avoid the... What the... It's impossible! Yo, what? It doesn't end there though, because after enough retries, you somehow become invincible and win the game. While I appreciate the effort of the game, due to it being extremely broken, I'm going to rate it a 1.4 out of 10. And let's move on to the next one. Ninja Noir is a point-and-click detective game made in 3 days for a game jam. What makes this stand out from previous game jam submissions, however, is how high it scored in terms of graphics and presentation in the competition. And I can see why. The graphics of the games was really impressive for a game made in 3 days. The point-and-clicking stuff is very simple, the writing is alright, containing a lot of friendly banter between the two characters of the game. Despite all that, the story was kind of a nothing burger. But what can you really expect for a game developed in 3 days with these graphics? It's also stated that the game is still a prototype anyway. I'll give you a brief rundown of the story. Gino the ninja detective wants to find a case to solve. He relies on his robot assistant Blitz to search up cases, but he hasn't repaired Blitz's case search function. Which means he has to get out of his apartment, but oh no, the faulty apartment elevators locked itself again. Gino returns to his room to find a lockpick to pick the lock. He unlocks the elevator and gets out to pay rent, apparently. The well-done graphics and witty dialogue can't really elevate the non-existent story, gameplay, and sounds. So I'll be giving this game a 2.75 out of 10. With those games out of the way, let's move on to a more interesting game. One that touches upon the subject of marriage, in fact. Featuring Husband Simulator, and for the 4th game in a row, it is yet another game jam game. The goal of this game is simple. You're a husband trying to make breakfast for your wife in 5 minutes. It's all very straightforward and can be completed easily in like 2 minutes once you know where everything is. You just need to make 2 toasts, bacons, eggs, plate them all, and make a coffee, and voila, your wife is happy. Yeah, that is the gist of the gameplay. Absolutely nothing to write home about, but well, what I can absolutely write home about with this game is how well designed the entire house was. Hell, I can give you a short house tour. The bedroom, the bathroom, the guest room or kids room, I don't really know, the kitchen, the dining room, the yard, the neighborhood, the neighbor's house. It's unlit, so I feel like a criminal breaking in. Anyway, as you can tell, I was much more entertained exploring the game's map than the bare bones gameplay itself. I will rate House Tour Husband Simulator a 4 out of 10. You know, as a person who loves tea but hates coffee, I feel like the husband should have served the wife some tea instead. And that brings us to our final game of the episode. Foresty is a visual novel game where we're in a forest inside a town with a very strong tea culture. Holy shit, it's like the game's name wasn't implying that or something. And yes, as if I haven't reviewed enough Game Jam games this episode, this is another one, made in 2 weeks. Anyway, as a 2-week games with graphics this well made, you would think that every other aspect of the game would falter. Well, that's what I thought as well at first, but to my pleasant surprise, I was proven wrong. I played this game for a whole hour, trying to get all endings of the story while getting to enjoy the little tea brewing minigame inside it. So basically, you play as an apprentice of a renowned tea blender known as Professor Eleanor Maplewood. You are invited to her house to be mentored by her, but uh-oh, you notice that her door is left ajar and she isn't there. Without any other choice, you go in the house and see a letter that's addressed to you from Professor Maplewood herself, telling you to take care of her tea house while she's gone. Why is she gone? Is she coming back? Are you capable of taking care of Maplewood's tea business alone? Well, all that will be answered depending on how you do in the tea minigame and what choices you choose in the game as well. Anyway, I won't tell you the rest of the story because I urge you to try the game out yourself. I'm reviewing the game, not giving you a walkthrough, and I don't want the video to be like 30 minutes long. But I will say, as part of the gameplay itself, I really like the story, so there's that. Now for the gameplay aspects itself, there's the tea brewing minigame that will influence how the story goes, and there's quite a lot that goes into it as well. In 30 seconds, you need to get a total of at least 10 points in the minigame to make tea that people will like, giving you possibilities to get more endings in the game. First of all, and most importantly of all, you need to memorize what tea bags have what flavors to immerse in the tea. Knowing the right flavors early in the minigame will be what makes you get the most amount of points. Some can be obvious, like lemongrass being zesty and maple being sweet, but most of them I didn't even know about. Like, how am I supposed to know that lichen, a fucking moss, tasted salty, or whatever the fuck a linden is tasting sour? This should take a few tries to get down, but even if you remember all the teabag flavors, you're not out of the woods just yet. You still need to time the immersion of the teabags right, otherwise you get penalized for 1 point. Immersing the right teabags at the right amount of time will get you 2 points each time. The teabag immersion is easily the most annoying and RNG part of the game due to each teabag needing a different time to immerse. Some can really make it a lot harder to get 10 points than others. Besides all that teabag shit, you need to make sure your tea is at the right temperature as the timer ends, which requires stirring at the right time. If it's too cold or too hot, you will be penalized for a whopping 3 points. So yeah, the tea brewing minigame may be a bit overwhelming at first, but after you know what to do and actually read all the instructions, unlike what I did at first, it's actually a pretty fun minigame even though it still relies on a little bit of RNG. Overall, despite this game being a visual novel for the most part, I enjoyed the story and appreciated the little minigame that came along with it. With all that being said, seeing as I was entertained during the whole hour of 100%ing the game, I will be rating it 7.75 out of 10. Our highest rated game thus far across all seasons, from a virtual novel game no less. The only reason it wasn't rated higher was just because it was mostly just a visual novel at the end of the day, not exactly the epitome of gameplay. But still, to score that high is incredibly impressive. And of course, for that, Forsty is awarded the first hidden gem of the season. Congratulations! With our first award out of 5 being given away, I think this is where I'll be ending it for this episode. We had quite the interesting blend of games this episode, but I can assure you, I have a lot more interesting games waiting in the future. Thanks for watching guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.